Hey guys, Steve Ferguson here, your modern mortgage loan advisor. Man, I tell you what, today's going to be a good one. You know, there was a posting by Grant Cardone that said rent's going to double in the next 10 years. I 100% agree. I'm going to explain why. It's going to feel a little bit like conspiracy theory, but I'm going to walk you through why this is all going to change over the next decade. So before I get into it, make sure you like or subscribe to this channel. I appreciate you guys. That's what this is all about. I want to make sure you're educated. You have all the details that you need to make great decisions. And by liking, subscribing, posting questions, comments, etc., sharing these videos, it helps me, it helps you, and it helps keep everybody educated. So let's get into this and get started. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. Right now, everybody's of this mindset that says, you know what, there's a ton of houses out there, rent's really low. You know, I can't imagine rent doubling in 10 years. So we have to back up a little bit to figure all these things out. Now, why is rent low right now? Well, the market shifted. A lot of people bought at very top tip prices. They're trying to get their houses occupied. There's a lot of investor ownership out there. But there's a reason that rent is low, okay? And so if I can keep rent low for a period of time, it unmotivates potential home buyers to go buy because the house is more expensive that they're buying. So we can artificially stagnate the real estate market for a set period of time if we control a lot of the rental overall costs. Now, if you rewind a little bit, we keep going back and forth here, corporations, large corporations have bought swaths of American residential real estate. Okay, now why would a corporation buy a whole chunk of residential real estate? When I say chunk, I'm talking thousands of homes, all right? So think about it from a stock perspective. If I wanted to go change the value of Dell stock and I had a couple $1 billion laying around, I could buy a bunch of that stock and move the market. I can make a bunch of money and I can get out. Now, there's rules and laws against that, but there's really not rules or laws against that in residential real estate, okay? So you have these large corporations that are buying these properties and they're renting all of them out right now. They're keeping the rents low, right? They're keeping people in those properties. There's tax benefits to it, etc. But the exit strategy is where these corporations are going to make money. You don't make a ton of money with monthly rents, not for the kind of money they're looking to turn. You make a lot of money when you exit the market and you sell bulk properties off to future home buyers. Now, here's what's going to happen, or what I anticipate to happen in this entire process. So this has been taking place over the last several years. Lots of homes are owned by corporations. They've got lots of people renting them right now, and they've artificially stagnated this market. Now, there's also mainstream news media organizations that are pushing a narrative that economy's bad, nobody wants to buy, interest rates are ridiculous. Are they? No. Interest rates are very normal. Actually, they're below normal. If you look at the historical rate, the average interest rate, I think since they've been tracking mortgage interest rates, is 7.25%. We're below that. So we're below average. So the market is not as bad as what people are getting spun to believe, but people are believing and buying into this media representation of what the market happens to be. Now, here's where we're getting a little bit into the weeds on some of this. If you start digging in to see who owns some of these media corporations, you may be surprised that those organizations are buying properties. Okay? So if I can get everybody to do something that I want them to do, I bought all these properties, I've done these things, I've put renters into it. Now I'm going to start releasing better economic information. We're going to start shifting this market, all right? Because I want to make this market as strong as I possibly can before I exit the market. So now, hey, rates have gotten lower. Inflation looks great. We're seeing people get new jobs. There's more manufacturing in the United States. There's all these things happening. You're going to hear this from the mainstream media. And then what will happen is you'll see home prices increase because supply and demand. We have a lot of supply, not a lot of demand right now, right? That's why rents are low. We're going to shift that. We're going to increase the demand for housing. We're going to sell off houses, right? So all these renters who were renting will be buying. A lot of these investors who own these single family residences are going to sell their homes at that time because there's a ton of pent up demand in the market right now where people are renting that have a desire to buy. They just haven't gotten the emotional or the educational wherewithal to purchase yet, but when the rates get lower, they will. And you'll see home prices drive up, okay? Now, all those existing rental properties will be liquidated at that point in time. You're going to really minimize the amount of rental properties that are available because, again, people are going to be dumping their rentals buying new property. Landlords will be like, I can't rent these anymore. I'm going to put these on the market and sell them. They get sold. Now apartment complexes control the narrative, or those big investors who are building subdivisions, there may be one around you where they're building these subdivisions to rent only. Okay. That's who's controlling the rental market when this shift happens. Now, what's going to happen is rent prices are going to spike because there's less rental properties out there. So anybody waiting to buy, can't afford to buy, still wants to be a renter, you're going to be dealing with raising rent prices year over year over year over year. Put that in conjunction with the cost of owning real estate, taxes, insurance is going crazy right now on homes because the insurance market is not regulated very well. And so they're trying to make a buck. And I totally get it, but it drives the cost of ownership higher. When those things happen, all of those expenses get passed on to the renter. All right. So even though you don't own a home, you still got to have shelter. Food, water, and shelter is what every human being has to have. And because you decide to wait, maybe for lower interest rates, maybe for future opportunities, maybe you couldn't afford it, maybe you didn't want to buy another piece of property and have people rent out rooms from you. Whatever the decision happened to be, you're going to get to a spot where you won't afford to have shelter. You won't be able to afford to own shelter or even lease shelter because this market's going to drive upwards. So when you consider all those different aspects, you have to look at the large picture, not this minute minute of time where I'm talking to you right now. Don't get caught up in today. You really have to look at future stuff when you're looking at the cost of real estate, what the cost of rent's going to do, what houses are going to do, and what's likely to happen with supply and demand. Now, all these companies are set to make a ton of money when they liquidate those properties. Remember, it's just like if they invested in a business, they want a certain return. They're buying those properties for that very specific return. You could take advantage of this market at the exact same time by buying at the right time, which is now, right? The longer you wait, the less likely it's going to become a good financial investment for you. The problem is then you're going to be stuck renting like we've talked about before. Now, Grant Cardone said in 10 years, the rent's going to double. So think about what your average rent payment is now. Let's just say it's $2,000 a month. If we look at the average increase in home prices over a 10-year period of time, plus the average increase in taxes, average increase in homeowners insurance, it's very likely to double in 10 years. I'd be surprised if maybe it doesn't go higher than double in 10 years. And then all those people who are renting at that point in time are stuck. They can't go anywhere. And more investors will come back into the market and start buying more rental property to flood that market again with more opportunity, which will gradually lower interest rates, and we'll start this process all over again. But the general overlying theme here is that if you don't own your home, you have zero control over what you pay for shelter, because that's the simple math of it. If you're renting, you are simply paying for shelter. Okay? Feels like a dirty word, doesn't it? That's because it is. You have no control over anything, right? That landlord can say, you know what, I'm going to raise your rent to $1,000 next month. And you're going to have to spend a bunch of money moving out and finding another rental property. Hopefully there is one and you can qualify for it. If not, guess what? You're going to have to pay for it or you can get evicted. When you own your own home and you're in your current mortgage, you can control the narrative on what your payment is because you're doing a 30-year fixed rate. You know, all these other things. As long as you get a good product, you're going to be in a great position to make sure that you can afford that shelter that you and your family need. So don't get caught up in this social and mainstream media push to keep people from buying homes for the simple fact that most people don't realize what's going on in the market. The goal here is to educate you guys to let you know exactly what's going on so you can make an educated decision and get precisely where you want to go. Now, let's get into this a little deeper because I want to make some things clear. Investors out there, if you're an investor right now, you should be buying properties because when you're paying attention to the big guys, and they've got people on staff who are super knowledgeable, they've got buyers, they've got people looking out for these things, etc. It's easier for the little guy to follow what the big guy is doing because it's likely the big guy is making decisions based on future real estate transactions, not current transactions. So I could buy as an investor, go buy 3 or 4 or 5 homes, ride this wave, put renters in it, get the tax benefits, get the depreciation, all those different things. And when these big guys start offloading because the market shifts, you get to do the same thing. And your exit strategy is making cash. Okay? So pay attention to what's going on with the big guys first and then the small guys second. Now, how do we stop this from happening? Nobody asked me these questions. I'm obviously not big enough in the food chain for somebody to come find me, but If I were making rules today, how would you stop this from happening? Number one, you've got to make it easier for people to be able to buy homes. It is too complex today to get a mortgage loan, and every loan officer out there is not built the same way. Not everybody educates their clients, and they just dump them into whatever program is going to make them fit. And that may not be a good decision for you. So you need education, and we need the ability to be flexible in the way that we qualify a client. So there's income sources that we can't use until you've had it for 2 years. There's credit score requirements. All these are the things that prohibit you from buying a home based on risk algorithms. Does that really change the foreclosure numbers? I mean, a little bit, but not a ton. And that's the frustrating thing about this. When you're looking at big solutions like a 50-year mortgage or a tote the note kind of rate, those are not solutions to the industry. Those are not solutions for more people to qualify for a home loan. Those are Band-Aids to the internal solution. So understand right now, as an investor, as a buyer, now is the time to pick up those properties. There are lots of ways to still qualify, right? It's not going to fix everything overnight by making these systems looser like I just discussed. You still have the ability to buy with less than perfect credit, very low or zero down payment loans, and you can jump into this market before these 10-year rental numbers come out. But I've worked with clients who have postponed their buying for years and years and years. I stay in contact with them, and every year they're less and less likely to buy a home. I've got some right now that will never be able to buy a home. They're going to be stuck renting forever. And guess what? If that rental amount doubles in the next 10 years, they're going to have a whole lot of roommates living with them, or they're going to have to move to some other country to be able to afford it. So don't be stuck in that boat. Listen, guys, I hope this was super educational for you. I'm not trying to ramble. I want to make sure you guys know exactly what's going on with a clear line of sight. Make decisions that are best for your family, but don't wait. If you have the ability to buy, I highly recommend buying. Check around, do your research, give me a call, shoot me a message, whatever you've got. I'm happy to answer your questions, and I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.